you, stream, for being awesome.
Let's see if we can.
It's probably still up. It's just.
Yep, we're back.
Yeah. So.
I think
it is. I'm loading.
I think we're back. We're back. If anyone in chat is seeing us right now,
just refresh.
Just say something.
I gotta log in again. Yeah, let us know in chat if you can hear us, and then we'll keep going, and we'll send a care package to Ustream for the quality service that they provide us with. Okay. Anybody hear us? Let us know.
Anybody?
Bueller. I love EPAPS's comment, just boom whenever we go down. All right, it looks like we're good. All right, well, with that in mind.
Oh, Ustream. Okay.
All right,
back on track here.
Let's see. I'm trying
Just so you guys know, that's not on our end. I mean, we're watching our own feed going out, and it's working flawlessly. So
I'm trying to think of a pro that is as inconsistent as Ustream is.
Gael Monfils.
No, Monfils isn't consistent. He's just passive. I'm talking about a guy who shows up and you don't know where the level's going to be at.
How about?
We'll let the chat decide.
All right. Okay.
Who if Ustream was a pro tennis player and was super inconsistent, who would it be?
Goldus.
Goldus.
Okay, let me clip over to the computer here.
Yeah, now we've moved on to Nadal and Lopez. We'll try and get this out before it crashes again. And you know the thing that's everybody has found interesting over the course of the tournament is Rafa's first serve. 63%, maybe a couple percentage points lower than what he's normally used to. But the dude was dropping 135 mile-an-hour serves. Average first serve speed is 118, which is up. Not quite as big as Lopez, who has a huge serve. But Rafa, I mean, was completely in control of this match from the get-go, 3, 4, and 4.
Yep. And
Rafa looked great. I mean, the guy was in control of virtually every single point. And, you know, it's interesting because coming into the tournament, he did not look very sharp.
Right.
And now he looks fantastic. So I think he's got he plays Verdasco. He should get through that. Verdasco is a tricky opponent. So I think he's got a great chance of making the final, a great chance of winning the tournament.
Yeah. Let's talk about the interview, that he did, because I think there was some real insight there.
That was
really good.
Let me grab a racket because they were asking, I guess last night during the match, might have been Pam Shriver had asked about the grip change that Rafa had made.
She asked Tony.
Yeah, Tony, and he basically just said he switched it around a little bit, have the palm more. I think he said more closed. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was open, but basically the way he phrased it was more towards a continental. And so Rafa's up in the booth today with Brad Gilbert and Chris Fowler, and was demoing how he was holding the racket. Good thing, Rafa, this is probably the only thing our tennis games have in common is we're both left-handed. But he was holding it originally on a serve like this, which is basically kind of an Eastern backhand, which is perfectly acceptable, but maybe not. It facilitates a little bit more spin, typically not as much power. So he basically said he just went around a little bit, maybe a bevel or so to basically continental, and that is the result. That's where he's getting all this pace.
Right.
And they said, Rafa, when did you make this switch? Were you working on it after Wimbledon? What's the deal here? And he was like, yeah, I switched 2 days before the tournament. And both of them were, and so was I. I was like, that's incredible. You're switching your serve, which is one of the most important shots in the game.
Right.
Your grip 2 days before the tournament starts. I mean, for most of us, that's going to be a million double faults. You won't be confident with it.
Right.
And what Rafa's saying is, I'm really confident with my serve, despite this technical change. And he also said, if you don't take risks, you're not going to get those big rewards. So it was a good attitude to have.
Right.
But it was just pretty incredible to hear it nonetheless, because that's basically like changing your forehand grip.
Yeah.
Right before a big tournament. And
well, I mean, I like it from the perspective of, everybody knows that Rafa is just as built or bigger than every other pro on tour. There are guys out there with much bigger serves than Rafa, and Rafa in the past has just been content to sit back and maybe go for those 105, 110 mile an hour first serves with a bunch of spin on them. And then out of nowhere, he shows up to the U.S. Open with 135 mile an hour serves. And I like it purely from the perspective of Rafa is the #1 player in the world now, and he's now serving like it too. His serve is winning him a lot of easy or a lot of free points. And it's certainly allowing him to be more aggressive. I think the interesting story right now is that Rafa is serving a lot more aggressively than he ever has before. And Federer is playing an all-court game a lot more aggressively than he ever has before.
Well, I'd say, I'd correct that slightly. I'd say he's playing, he basically, last year, he kind of was a little bit more passive than he could have been, or than he had been previously. So he basically was real aggressive, then had a little lull, and is now back to being the R-Fed of old to some extent, although he's a top shot and coming to net a little bit more than he had in the past. So, look, both these guys are arguably, Rafa, when he's done, maybe he'll be the greatest player ever. We don't know how many more majors he's going to win. Maybe he's the second best player. Rafa, or Federer right now is the greatest player, in my opinion, of all time. But both these guys, if they're going to, the reasons they're so great is because they're not like, bam, here's my level, I'm just going to stay here and hang out.
Right.
They're always improving. Rafa's working on the serve. I'm sure the return is somewhere in there too, trying to get that up to speed. Mm-hmm. Federer's making adjustments, bringing in a new coach to kind of have a different look. So all these guys, Federer, Nadal, and it's happened in the past too, are making adjustments.
The other thing I would say is also this, in particular this year, we've also seen Marty Fish drop 30 pounds and improve tremendously. Mm-hmm. Andy Roddick has improved tremendously. And who was the other guy I was thinking of? Soderling.
Soderling, yeah, has had
all of the and Djokovic. Djokovic has also lost weight, but is playing phenomenally. I mean, it seems like all of the guys basically in the top 5 and maybe the top 10 are actually all improving together, it seems.
Yeah, I think Federer had a stretch there, 05, 06, 07, where he was clearly better than everybody. Mm-hmm. And then people started working hard to catch up with him.
Right.
And you could make an argument that a couple guys, not necessarily, they didn't catch up with him, but they got him a couple times. And then Rafa emerges as he catches up and arguably surpasses, depending on who you ask, Federer for stretches. And so both those guys, I think, have caused all these other players to really refocus their efforts, redouble their efforts, if they, because they're not going to be able to compete otherwise. Right. So yeah, Djokovic is shedding weight. Soderling is working with Magnus Norman to improve and get in better shape. So it's those guys have definitely had a positive.
Gait Shinho in chat says Andy Roddick didn't really improve. I disagree. I think he's made some phenomenal improvements. Losing weight and training with Stepanki there has improved him tremendously as a player. He's moving much better than he ever was before. He hasn't lost anything on his serve, and he's tracking more balls down, winning more points. Just because you have you can have a bad major. I mean, I think people are a little quick to dismiss. Andy Roddick may have lost for a number of reasons at the U.S. Open, but he hasn't suddenly gone downhill.
Well, it's fair to say the guy had mono. He definitely had a hangover after he lost to Roger at Wimbledon, 16-14. I mean, that's just, that hurts.
Right.
But remember, Stepanki was the guy that got him there. They were working together beforehand. Roddick drops 15 pounds, back in improves, more slice, and so on. And then he played well at the beginning of this year. Quarterfinal at Aussie Open, got injured, unfortunately. Then he makes it to the final of Indian Wells, which is the 5th largest tournament in the world. Mm-hmm. It loses at 7-6, 7-6. Then he wins Miami by beating Rafa in the semis, and then Buric in the final. And then he doesn't play the clay court season, gets sick at some point. So
right, the point that Orange Eater made in chat, I think, is a great response. I mean, he got mono in May, which is the meat and potatoes of the season. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how you expect to recover. Mono directly affects your ability to use oxygen, and that's got to be killed. Any athlete.
Everything. I got mono.
You just feel tired.
I got mono in 2005, and my game just sort of.
Right. But I like what you said. You know, earlier in his career, I think Roddick was a bit more of a one-trick pony. You know, not taking away anything from his game because he was certainly a top player,
Serve
but
forehand.
his game was monster serve. Someone would hit a weak return, monster forehand, and then points would be over. And that worked for a while. And then he started having trouble making that work, and then he improved himself to become, you know, his backhand's much better, and he's a much better mover. His game is certainly a lot deeper than it used to be, I think.
I think the one criticism we can make is that he's too passive now, and that's one of the reasons I think he lost to Tipsarevic. He's not hitting his forehand as big as he did in the past.
Yeah.
So he needs to find some balance in between where he is right now and where he was earlier in his career, because you know, and the other guy we're watching right now is a little too passive, is Monfils, who is a better athlete than Roddick, so he can get away with it more than Roddick can. So Roddick needs to be a little bit more aggro than he has in the past. But you know, yeah, to round this all out and kind of close this discussion, Rafa and Federer they raised the bar for everybody else, and as a result, everybody else started improving. Verdasco's another guy you could throw out there that has improved recently as well.
Yep.
And of course, Rafa and Verdasco play in the next round. What I want to do now is about Fed and Soderling, because we get that one tonight. That is going to be exciting. And let's quickly.
You want to clip to that computer screen real quick? Real quick, so people can see the draw. What's remaining?
Oh, okay. Well, here, yeah, we've got.
Nadal will face Verdasco. Wawrinka will face Yuzny. Monfils, Djokovic are playing now.
And then tonight,
Federer.
Yeah, and then if you, somebody actually asked in the chat, Wawrinka, what does he have to do to beat Yuzny? I think he needs to play same way he played against Querrey. The main thing is mentally he needs to stay locked in and focused, because there were some peaks and valleys during that match for Wawrinka where he really could have taken control of the match and didn't. So I think if he's able to maintain the same mental focus and maybe raise it up a notch, he'll have a shot. So let's go to I filmed a preview video for Federer Soderling, and that's on YouTube right now, but I'll pull it into the website after the webcast is over. So we'll put Soderling over here and Roger down. And if you think back to the French Open and when the quarterfinal, when Soderling got Federer, first thing we need to understand is that the conditions were way, way slower than they are now. Clay court, slowest court in the of all the surfaces, and it had been raining and was raining during that match. So just unbelievable. The clay was even slower. So what that gave Soderling was time. The ball was not moving through the court; it was bouncing and sitting up. So Soderling was able to get himself set and hit forehands on most balls in the middle of the court. You know, if he has a backhand, could turn a lot of them into forehands. He was on balance. He had a lot of time to get through his mechanics, which are pretty long. And he made a habit of just hammering away at Roger's backhand. Just go inside out to Roger's backhand. And then when he got a ball that was a little bit shorter and he could step in on, so here's that short ball on the forehand again. So Soderling baseline, maybe a little bit inside, he would go to the open court. But, you know, Roger, we were talking about how he was a little bit more passive in the past and he would kind of grind it out. Roger got himself into a little trouble in that French Open quarterfinal because he's hitting a lot of backhands. He's not able to neutralize and get it over here where he needs to get into a neutral exchange. And Soderling, by hammering away, again, here's the forehand, by hammering away inside out, that ensures that he's going to stay in control with the forehand. And, you know, Soderling did a nice job of going to the backhand until he had the open court. Because the disadvantage of going inside in here, this is inside out, inside in, is that then you get into a cross-court exchange, forehand to forehand, if Fed's able to neutralize, and you lose the advantage of having the inside out to the weaker opponent. So he was very smart about when he decided to go inside in. And he obviously won that match 4. Now, with this faster court, probably not going to be able to run around as many balls. He's not going to be as set. He's just not going to have as much time. So he is not going to be able to just kind of go on offense as much, fewer opportunities. And with Federer's upped aggression and his decision not to be as passive anymore, I think it's going to be a tough ask for Soderling because he's just not going to have as many looks. For Soderling to have a chance, he basically needs to serve big. He needs to have, serve big, and then if he gets a return, serve big and serve a high percentage. First ball needs to be on the forehand. He needs to be attacking from the first shot. He can't let the rallies get neutral. He needs to try and keep points short, and then he needs to go after Federer on Fed's serve when he gets a second serve look. And that's what he did at the French Open, but the conditions helped him do that. So I think it's going to be a tough one for Soderling to pull out. And with Fed's aggressive play and his unwillingness to kind of just sit out there and grind it out like he did a couple times, and that really plays into big hitters. I think Federer wins this in 4 sets, is my guess. So if you guys, let me know what you guys think in the chat here. I can see you're doing a lot of typing, Adam. What's going on?
We were just talking about mono.
Are you talking about mono?
Well, because people were wondering about Roddick, and then Federer had it.
Wikipedia.
Back in 2008.
Wikipedia is the solution.
Right.
Do you think this? Yeah, that's the other. Yeah, Orange Eater. The other argument there is, okay, well, the court speed is actually faster, so if I take a big cut, then I'm pretending I'm Soderling. I take a big cut, ball's going to move through the court, so Roger's going to have more trouble handling it than he did at the French Open. That's one argument. I mean, that's a decent angle, but the problem is that because the ball just moves a lot quicker and you can't be as on balance, Soderling's not going to be able to blast the ball every single time.
Right.
He's going to have to really work a little bit harder than he did at the French Open to get himself set up. And, Soderling was literally swinging about as hard as he could when he was playing Federer. So he was able to dull the I was going to say, let me phrase it like this. He was hitting so hard that the ball was still moving through the court on those clay courts and giving Fed trouble. And he was standing up. And that is just not going to be as easy to do tonight. So I think he's going to have a tough time just kind of getting that instant offense that he was able to do at the French Open.
Yeah.
And again, Fed is going to cut his time down, just cut it down.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but my feeling is that Federer is a very introspective player. He thinks a lot about, especially when he gets beaten. He thinks a lot about why he lost and what he needs to do the next time he plays someone. And Federer and Soderling was able to get the best of him on clay, but I think that Federer is playing a little bit more aggressively now. I think Federer is really going to try to stand up on the baseline, and he is going to take time away from Soderling. I think he's not going to let Soderling set up. He's going to keep the ball, were you saying, out of the middle of the court?
Yeah. I think his control is going to be better.
Right.
And SW19 made a great point. Fed's got exceptional footwork, superior footwork, and he's moving well now. Moving extremely well now, best he's moved in a while. So he is going to be able, we talked about this, many of you may have seen the video with Jan Ozu we did about footwork. We talked about how footwork is a weapon, and Fed's footwork is way better than Soderling's. So on these quicker courts, Fed is going to have more opportunities to go on offense simply because he positions himself better to get set and take a big cut at the ball.
Yeah.
And, so more offensive opportunities for Soderling. I'm losing my mind. More offensive opportunities for Federer because of that. I think that's going to be one of the important factors in this match.
The other thing that I was going to mention in relation to Federer's footwork versus Soderling's is that today at the Open is apparently the windiest day that it has been yet, according to the commentators. And I think that if the conditions, obviously the wind will die down after the sun goes down. The weather will die down a little bit. But if it is very windy out, I think that is an advantage for Federer. I think that Fed is going to hit with a little bit more spin. He's going to, one of the disadvantages that Soderling has, Soderling drives the ball a lot more than Federer does. Federer definitely has more spin on his forehand. And the commentators today are talking about how there's a big difference down on court right now between being apparently on the commentators' end of the stadium is upwind. So if you're serving, or hitting on the commentators' end, the wind is at your back. And you need to put a lot more spin on the ball to have it pulled down into the court. And if you are, downwind, hitting into the wind, you can basically crush the ball right now and it will still drop in. So I've got to think that works kind of doubly against Soderling if that continues tonight. Anytime that Soderling is upwind and he tries to really smack the ball, it could carry on him if he doesn't put enough spin. And if he smacks the ball when he's downwind and Federer's, on the right side, the wind is going to slow that ball down. Fed's going to have more time to move to it.
It's a good point. That is the X factor. We've seen Federer handle the tough conditions pretty well the last couple rounds. And Soderling's had some kind of. Soderling's always, had dips here or there. He's never been the most consistent start-to-finish player, except in that, a couple matches. There's exceptions, but I don't expect Soderling to handle the conditions as well as Federer will. So that's a good point.
I only mention that because again, the commentators are saying that this is apparently just by far the windiest day, and that the flag up on top of the stadium, according to Brad Gilbert, is blowing one way, but down on the court the wind is moving in a completely different direction.
That always happens at Arthur Ashe.
Sure.
Yeah, SW19, another good point. Soderling doesn't really have a plan B. That's right. If his big, I'm just going to hit big on all fronts, that's going to be a problem for him. It's not working, and it'll be tough for him to make an adjustment there. So there's a number of issues for Soderling, and I think this bears repeating. Bears highlighting. Soderling beat Federer the last time they played, and that was the first time he had beaten him in 13 matches.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know who won the last match, and someone just said, so this guy's 12-1 against this other dude,
right?
Who do you think's going to win? I mean, it wouldn't be a question. It would just be obvious. So obviously Soderling's playing better in the last couple of years, but I don't see it happening. So yeah, Federer in 4 sets is my guess there. Let's see. JIR says, do I think Del Potro will be the same player when he returns? It's tough to say. I mean, wrist injuries are always scary, but if the surgery went well, I'm sure he'll be just fine. That's sort of the question. I mean, medically, if he can get back to where he was before.
I mean, you got to think that Del Potro is paying for top dollar surgery, top dollar physical therapy.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the that doesn't always mean that everything goes flawlessly.
Sure.
So yeah, with that in mind, we got before we wrap this up. Point of housekeeping. Tomorrow we're going to do the webcast at noon?
Yeah.
12 noon, because I'm actually going up to New York for a Championship Tennis Tours event, and then I got to come right back. But that's obviously we can't do it at 5 o'clock if I'm on a train. So tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time is when we'll be doing this. SW19, yeah, Del Potro does have great footwork for the big guys, one of the big guys. So yeah, we'll close on this. Dealer says Fed Nadal final would be awesome. I absolutely agree with that. Wozniacki Kleister status X, that would be cool. Cool as well. Ace High, just what are we, 5 hours ahead of or behind England?
Yes, 5 hours.
Yep. So probably 5 o'clock your time. SW19, the train is actually pretty awesome from DC to New York. It's not 5 hours. It's 3. It's 3.5.
Yeah, it's about 3.5
hours
on the train, which is faster than driving. And that flying is really not as convenient as you might think. It is like 45 minutes up to New York, maybe.
I mean, it's a little faster, but it's not. It's probably about an hour and a half faster.
Maybe if you flew into LaGuardia, it would be convenient. But as we saw,
no, that's what you do. You fly a shuttle LaGuardia.
Right. The traffic to JFK is a nightmare getting up to.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. So the train's just easy. Just bam, right up, right into Grand Central, and I'm going to Times Square. So it's easy, just up and back. All right. Well, with that in mind, guys, we are going to sign off, and we'll see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time.
Yes.
Yeah. So looking forward to this match tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. And with that in mind, we will see you guys tomorrow at noon.
All right. Bye, guys.